The Veilthari warrior lay trapped beneath the wreckage, her bioorganic armor leaking luminescent blue fluid. Jonas Renner, a human engineer, had no idea his act of mercy would bind him to an ancient alien ritual. When she asked what he wanted in return, he joked, "You." He never expected her to take it literally, or to remove her armor in sacred offering. Jonas wiped grease from his hands as the station shuddered under the bombardment. The repair bay's overhead lights flickered, casting jagged shadows across twisted metal. A sharp crack echoed from Sector 9, the sound of structural plating giving way. Through the settling dust he saw it, a Veilthari warrior pinned beneath a collapsed bulkhead. Her armor pulsed a dim blue where the plating had crushed against her side, the living material reacting to damage like exposed nerves. The rhythmic glow slowed with each pulse. Human medics clustered nearby, their gloves hovering inches from the alien alloy. They knew the rules. Veilthari physiology was classified above Level 7 clearance. Coalition directives specifically prohibited medical intervention. Their warriors died rather than risk exposing biological secrets to outsiders. Jonas didn't move at first. He watched the viscous blue fluid pooling around the wreckage, thicker than blood, brighter than any Terran liquid. It spread in fractal patterns across the deck plating, catching the emergency lights like liquid sapphire. Then he was moving. His toolkit wasn't medical grade, just standard engineering gear, sealant foam, thermal tape, molecular binder. But he recognized pressure breaches when he saw them. The warrior's armor was leaking from 3 main points along the rib casing, each fracture spiderwebbing smaller cracks through the bioorganic material. He worked quickly, applying quickset foam to the worst leaks. The substance hissed against the glowing fractures, forming an imperfect but serviceable seal. Where the warrior's side armor had split completely, he used thermal tape to bind the plates back together. The material resisted at first, twitching like irritated flesh before finally holding. The armor's bioluminescence stabilized to a slow, steady pulse. A human would have groaned in relief, but the Veilthari remained perfectly still. Only her eyes moved, tracking Jonas's hands as they worked over the damaged plating. When the quarantine officers arrived, they found Jonas kneeling in a circle of drying blue fluid, his coveralls stained with the alien substance. Their reports would later cite 17 protocol violations. The warrior's debrief contained only 2 words about the incident: debt owed. Station medics insisted on decontamination. As they led Jonas away, he glanced back. The warrior was sitting upright now, her gaze locked on him across the ruined bay. One armored hand rested over the makeshift repairs, where Terran sealant glinted under the harsh lights. The officers called it reckless endangerment. The diplomatic corps called it an interstellar incident. The warrior called it something far more dangerous. The first step in an ancient ritual no human had ever been meant to trigger. Kadrenval's armor made a wet, hissing sound as Jonas carefully peeled back the fractured chest plate. The material resisted at first, like peeling a scab from living tissue. Underneath pulsed something thicker than blood, slower moving, carrying faint blue luminescence through branching channels in the armor's inner layers. This wasn't just circulatory fluid. It moved in rhythmic pulses down the warrior's side, carrying nutrients, neural signals, perhaps something closer to thought itself. Veilthari never removed armor in combat. Not during medical emergencies, not under torture, never. Standard briefings warned Coalition personnel not to attempt armor removal under any circumstances. Yet here she lay, completely still, allowing a human mechanic to expose what no outsider should witness. Jonas felt the pressure of protocols he'd already shattered. He glanced at the warrior's face. Her breathing remained steady despite the damage, eyes tracking his every move with eerie calm. A joke bubbled up in his throat, the nervous kind humans make in operating rooms and crash sites. "If you were human," he said, brushing a fleck of sealant from her armor, "I'd buy you a drink after this." The warrior exhaled through her nose, a sound like air escaping a pressure valve. "Name your due, savior of Kira Drenval." Her voice had a resonance the translators couldn't smooth out, layered harmonics suggesting this wasn't casual speech but something ceremonial. He didn't think, just flashed a tired grin and said, "You?" Silence slammed down like an airlock ceiling. The warrior's pupils dilated, her armor's bioluminescence flaring bright enough to cast shadows on the repair bay walls. Jonas realized 2 things simultaneously. First, that her full name contained the clan prefix he'd ignored earlier, And second, that he'd just triggered something far older than the Coalition's rulebook. The fluid in her armor changed pattern, swirling into distinct concentric circles where it had previously flowed randomly. An alert pinged on his engineering scanner, local energy readings spiking in exact alignment with the armor's glow. Behind them, one of the quarantine officers took a step forward. Kadrenval snapped her head toward the sound, issuing a sharp vocalization that made the officer freeze mid-step. When she turned back to Jonas, she reached for the first of her vambrace seals. Her fingers moved with ritual precision. First the left forearm plate, which detached with a wet click and a brief flare of blue light. Then the right, its inner surface revealing intricate channels still pulsing faintly. These she placed on the deck between them with deliberate care, aligning them parallel to one another. Jonas didn't need cultural training to understand this was a threshold being crossed. Every species has those unspoken lines, gestures that can't be taken back, words that rewrite relationships on a molecular level. The air between them smelled sharp now, like ozone and something organic beneath it. Across the bay, another officer was speaking urgently into a comms unit. Jonas caught the words "protocol breach" and "get command down here," but his focus stayed locked on the warrior's hands as they moved toward her gorget seals. Her lips parted, revealing slightly elongated canines. When she spoke next, it wasn't in standard Coalition dialect, but in a language that made his translation earpiece emit a warning chime. Gressler begins, the mechanical voice overlaying her words offered unhelpfully. Jonas had stabilized her armor, not knowing that to the Veilthari, the act of repair carried obligations deeper than mere gratitude. Their warriors recorded every debt, quantified every intervention, balancing cosmic ledgers with precision humans had never mastered. She didn't explain as she reached for the next set of seals. No Veilthari would. The ritual spoke for itself. The steady removal of protection, layer by layer, the offering up of vulnerability only ever seen by kin or sworn bonds. Jonas had meant it as a joke, a throwaway human flirtation in the middle of a crisis. But in the pause between his careless word and her response, something irreversible had clicked into place. Behind her, reflected in a polished bulkhead, he saw the exact moment his expression shifted from confusion to dawning comprehension. A Veilthari warrior was dismantling her own defenses before him, and no power in the Coalition could put that armor back on. Not without answering the question neither of them had voiced aloud. What happens when one person's joke becomes another's sacred vow? Kun inclined her head. Only about 60% of her armor remained now, leaving her right arm and most of her torso exposed. The contrast between armored and unarmored sections was stark, one half gleaming with living metal, the other showing ordinary skin. Except it wasn't ordinary at all. Where the armor had recently covered, faint blue tracery still pulsed beneath her epidermis. Fading, Jonas worked through the station's night cycle. The repair bay empty except for the blue glow of Kadrenval's salvaged armor fragments. He'd collected them carefully after the bombardment. Each shard still pulsed faintly, their bioluminescence dim but persistent. The largest piece came from her left pectoral plate, spiderwebbed with cracks but mostly intact. Its inner surface showed branching channels that had once connected directly to her nervous system. His workbench looked like some mad scientist's laboratory. Terran nanocarbon weave draped over Veilthari biotech, nanite infusers humming alongside organic nutrient baths. Standard repair protocols would never have approved this fusion. Coalition regulations classed Veilthari tech as contraband, let alone attempting hybridization. Jonas wiped sweat from his forehead and adjusted the molecular binder's settings. The chest plate took shape slowly. He built a Terran alloy frame first, flexible enough to move with a body, reinforced at the stress points. Then came the painstaking process of integrating the salvaged fragments. Each piece required different handling. The largest section needed a nutrient drip to keep its bioluminescent channels active, while smaller shards had to be positioned precisely so their glowing veins could reconnect. When he activated the finished piece, it reacted immediately. The Terran alloy darkened to near black, providing contrast for the blue veins now tracing across its surface. The patterns weren't random. They mirrored Kadrenval's original armor almost exactly, the channels forming the same distinctive whorls around what would be the wearer's heart. Jonas exhaled sharply and reached out to touch the center. The armor recognized contact. Threads of bioluminescence spiraled out from his fingertip, just as they had when he'd repaired Ka's original plating. But this time something different happened. The glow intensified where his skin met the hybrid material, then traveled backward up his own arm in faint, shimmering lines. The station intercom crackled. "Renair to Medical Bay 12, a voice ordered. Jonas barely heard it. He was too busy watching the impossible, his own pulse visible in luminescent patterns racing across the armor's surface. Kay stood waiting when he arrived, her remaining armor dull compared to the vibrant piece cradled in his arms. She'd been undergoing decontamination scans, her exposed skin still marked with fading traceries where removed plating had once connected. Her eyes locked onto the hybrid chest piece immediately. Jonas didn't explain, just turned the armor to catch the light, letting her see the patterns glowing across its surface. The room's oxygen scrubbers hissed in the silence as Ka reached out. Her fingertips hovered an inch above the material. The bioluminescence flared brighter anyway, reacting to proximity rather than contact. The veins pulsed in time with her breathing now, their rhythm syncing with the visible rise and fall of her chest. When she finally touched it, the reaction was instant. A cascade of light moving outward from the point of contact, resolving into distinct patterns. Her clan markings, CA, made a sound no human throat could replicate. Her fingers traced the designs reverently. "How?" she asked, though the word came out distorted by emotion the translator couldn't parse. Jonas shrugged. It remembered you. That was the simplest truth. The salvaged fragments had retained their connection, their patterning. Integrating them into the new framework just gave that memory a shape. Neither spoke for a long moment. Medical drones hummed in the background, scanning for contamination that wasn't there. Finally, Ka lifted the chest plate with both hands, holding it at arm's length. The glow intensified where her skin met the edges. Ripples spread through the bioluminescent channels, rearranging themselves into new configurations. Jonas had seen similar patterns before, in the station's quantum computers during complex calculations. The armor wasn't just reacting, it was processing. CA exhaled sharply and pressed the piece against her own chest, above her thin underlayer. The material adjusted instantly, its edges softening to blend with her existing armor. Bioluminescence flared along the seams where Terran alloy met Veilthari tech, then stabilized into a steady pulse. Jonas couldn't look away. The hybrid piece fit perfectly, its patterns now indistinguishable from Ka's original plating. Only the darker alloy frame revealed its true nature. Human engineering supporting alien biotechnology. CA's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. Neither owes yet both are bound. The translator provided no elaboration, but Jonas understood anyway. This wasn't traditional Gressler, where one warrior owed another a blood debt. This was something rarer, a mutual binding, a recognition that both had saved each other in different ways. Ka had preserved his life during the bombardment by taking the brunt of that falling bulkhead. He'd preserved hers by repairing breaches no Veilthari medic could reach in time. Now their exchange had physical form, his Terran metals cradling her ancestral armor patterns, her bioluminescent pathways integrated with human engineering. CA's remaining armor pulsed in sync with the new chest plate. The glow spread through her underlayer, tracing circuits Jonas hadn't even known existed. When she spoke again, the words landed with ceremonial weight. "Mirror Gressler." The station's alarms chose that moment to sound again. Red light flooded the medical bay as the automated voice declared another bombardment alert. Kay reacted instantly, her armor hardening even as she grabbed Jonas's wrist. They ran together through corridors littered with debris from the first attack. The hybrid chest plate gleamed on Ka's torso, its blue veins cycling faster now, anticipating danger. Jonas felt his own pulse racing to match its rhythm. In the repair bay's emergency shelter, they found 2 other humans and a Veilthari medic. The medic's eyes widened at the sight of Ka's modified armor, but a sharp vocalization from her silenced any questions. The station shuddered as the first impact hit. Jonas braced himself against a wall while Ka stood straight, her armor patterns flaring bright. The hybrid section pulsed differently from the rest, a steady heartbeat beneath the erratic defensive flashes. It lasted 27 minutes according to Jonas's implant. 27 minutes of concussive blasts shaking the station's frame, of emergency systems screaming about hull breaches. Through it all, Ka remained statue still beside him, her armor anticipating each new shockwave seconds before it arrived. When the all-clear finally sounded, the medic was the first to move, checking the humans for injury. Jonas waved him off, attention fixed on Ka. The hybrid plating had darkened to a deep blue-black, its glow now barely perceptible. Only the clan markings remained clearly visible, pulsing softly at regular intervals. "You're hurt," he realized. CA shook her head. "Adapting." She touched the center of the chest plate where clan markings met Terran alloy. New pathways form. Jonas understood then. The armor wasn't just merging materials. It was rewriting its own functions to accommodate the hybrid design. The human-made components were being absorbed, adapted, made part of the living whole. The medic made a low clicking noise that needed no translation. Disapproval. Ka silenced him with a look, then turned to Jonas. "Show them." "What?" "Your work." She gestured to the armor integrated seamlessly with her body. "Show them what outsider hands can do." For a moment, Jonas hesitated. This went beyond borrowed tech or battlefield improvisation. This was intimate co-creation. But Ka's expression held no doubt, just quiet certainty. He reached for his engineering pad and pulled up the schematics. The humans crowded around first, their initial skepticism giving way to awed murmurs as they saw the hybrid lattice taking shape. The Veilthari medic watched longest, his multi-lidded eyes tracing every connection point. Finally, he made a gesture Jonas had never seen before, both hands pressed together, fingertips pointing upward. Ka inhaled sharply. "What does that mean?" Jonas asked. The medic answered in heavily accented trade dialect. "Proof that metal and memory can weave together." Later, when the others had dispersed to damage control duties, Sia remained with Jonas in the repair bay. Her fingers traced the hybrid plating's edges, where human materials blended seamlessly with her own. The bioluminescent channels had already begun extending microscopic filaments into the Terran alloy. Knitting both technologies together at the molecular level. "You realize what we've done?" Jonas said quietly. CA nodded. "Made a new kind of armor." He shook his head. "No. We made a new kind of debt. Not the one-sided obligation of traditional Gressler, nor even the mutual recognition of mirror Gressler. Something else entirely, where human ingenuity and Veilthari tradition couldn't be untangled anymore, where the act of saving flowed both ways without keeping score." CA placed her hand over the hybrid plating, where her clan markings glowed brightest. "Not debt," she corrected gently. "Thread?" And in that moment, as station alarms wailed their all clear and repair crews scrambled through the corridors, Jonas finally understood. The armor wasn't just a protective shell or a cultural artifact. It was a living record, one that now contained his fingerprints alongside her ancestry, his repairs while the shrine pool's surface shimmered with slow-moving luminescence, its glow intensifying as Jonas stepped into the waist-deep fluid. His patchwork armor, Terran alloy fused with fragments of Ka's original plating, reacted instantly. The integrated blue veins pulsed brighter where they met the liquid, forming intricate tide-like patterns across his chest piece. Beside him, Ka wore only a thin underlayer, its material translucent enough to show the faint bioluminescent tracery beneath her skin. Ancient stone pillars ringed the pool, each carved with whorls mirroring the channels in Veilthari armor. No two patterns were identical, yet they all flowed into one another at the base, unbroken. Jonas recognized them now, lineages, not decorations. The scrollwork told stories in stone as clearly as the bioluminescent veins told them in living metal. Ka moved first, wading deeper until the luminescent liquid reached the middle of her ribcage. It clung to her like liquid mercury, beating on her exposed skin before dissolving into her underlayer's material. Where it touched, the faded traceries on her arms flared back to full visibility, mapping neural pathways usually hidden beneath full armor. "This isn't water," Jonas observed. The pool's viscosity was all wrong, too thick for liquid, too yielding for gel. It moved around his legs with purposeful resistance, not simply responding to displacement but reacting to contact. His armor's bioluminescent channels throbbed where submerged, sinking with Ka's underlayer glow. Kay turned, allowing the liquid to swirl around her. "The first truth," she said, her voice carrying oddly in the shrine's acoustics. "Armor remembers, but the pool reveals." Jonas watched as the luminescent substance began migrating up her body of its own accord, tracing slow spirals over her torso and arms. Where it went, the underlayer grew even more translucent, as though the matter itself were thinning under the liquid's influence. The effect spread to him next. The hybrid plating softened slightly along the edges, its veins brightening to match Ka's patterning. She extended her hand, palm up. Under normal circumstances, Veilthari armor could withstand plasma fire, vacuum, and gravitational shear. Yet here she stood, voluntarily letting alien fluid dissolve what little protection remained. For a species that ritualized armor removal as their most sacred vulnerability, entering this pool bare-chested must be akin to stepping into battle naked. Jonas clasped her offered hand. The contact sent visible ripples through the luminescent substance, concentric rings expanding outward from their joined fingers. War had taught him armor was about protection. The Veilthari, it seemed, understood something else entirely. The true meaning of removing armor, Ka said, watching the ripples reach the pool's edges, is not surrender, but connection. The liquid rose higher around them, responding to their proximity. Where it touched Jonas's hybrid plating, it pried microscopic gaps between the Terran alloy and Veilthari fragments. Not damaging, but probing. Strands of glowing fluid infiltrated the seams, temporarily merging organic and synthetic at a molecular level. Jonas felt it more than saw it, an electric tingle spreading through his chest piece, then into his skin beneath. His neural interface flared with activity, registering signals his armor wasn't designed to receive. Veilthari armor communicated with its wearer through direct neural feedback. His hybridized version could only interpret it as raw data. A stream of alien sensation flooded his implant, pressure patterns that might have been language, thermal signatures resembling emotion. Xie's grip tightened. She was experiencing the inverse, human alloy now interfacing with her nervous system through the same liquid bridge. Her breath hitched when the connection fully established, her pupils dilating until only a thin ring of iris remained. "You repaired me," she whispered in trade dialect, though Jonas suspected she wasn't speaking consciously anymore. "You rebuilt the broken paths." The pool's luminescence flared blindingly bright for 3 heartbeats before stabilizing at a lower intensity. When Jonas's vision cleared, both their armors had changed. His hybrid plating had darkened to match Ka's underlayer hue, its bioluminescent channels now pulsing in perfect unison with hers. More startling, her exposed arms now bore faint traceries resembling his original repair work, the patterns glowing silver rather than blue. "What is this place?" Jonas asked. His armor shouldn't have been able to interface with anything Veilthari, let alone reconfigure itself mid-ritual. "Shrine of Truth," Xia replied. The luminescent liquid had reached her collarbones now, its slow creep unstoppable. "Where armor cannot lie." One of the stone pillars emitted a low harmonic tone, then another, each resonating at slightly different frequencies until the shrine vibrated with layered sound waves. The pool's surface distorted from the vibrations, forming intricate standing wave patterns. Jonas realized with quiet awe that they matched the newly merged designs on his chest piece. Ka exhaled sharply. The liquid had reached her jawline. "It recognizes the work," she said, her voice strained. "The forging of something new." Jonas had read about sympathetic resonance, how identical materials could vibrate in unison across distances. This went beyond that. The shrine wasn't just acknowledging his hybrid armor. It was validating its existence as legitimate, worthy of interacting with sacred technology. The liquid touched his chin. Up close, its glow resolved into countless microscopic motes, each pulsing in unison with the rest. A final realization dawned. The shrine wasn't filled with liquid. It was filled with armor, disassembled, suspended, but still alive. The substance closed over his head soundlessly. Instinct made him hold his breath, but the luminescent medium didn't behave like liquid at all. It permitted respiration while maintaining viscosity. When he experimentally exhaled, silvery bubbles formed and drifted upward, each containing traces of bioluminescence. Ka exhaled beside him, her bubbles tinted blue. The 2 streams mingled mid-ascent, their combined glow illuminating the shrine's submerged architecture. Stone carvings continued below the surface, the patterns growing increasingly intricate. Jonas caught glimpses of narratives, warriors bonding over shared battles, armor fragments being exchanged, hybrid designs being tested and approved. Every Veilthari innovation had apparently started here, in this pool, under a liquid that could reveal truth through forced symbiosis. CA's hand found his again underwater. Contact sent new ripples through the luminous medium, these ones moving against gravity, downward toward the shrine's floor. Their joined glow illuminated something resting on the bottom. A single stone tablet covered in freshly formed traceries, the same patterns currently materializing on both their bodies. Jonas moved without thinking. He retrieved the tablet, its surface warm despite the liquid surrounding it. The designs weren't carved. They'd formed spontaneously from mineral deposits left by the luminous fluid, perfectly recording the armor modifications occurring above. CA pointed to one section where the tracery forked unusually. "This was your idea," she murmured. The alloy lattice to support the organic matrix. Her fingers brushed another arc where the lines thickened. "And this is mine." The neural relays adapted to interface with human tech. The tablet wasn't just recording changes. It was documenting collaboration, showing exactly which contributions came from whom. Jonas ran his thumb over the intersecting designs, marveling at how seamlessly the two styles merged. No junctions, no compromise points, just organic transitions proving compatibility where none should exist. The shrine's vibrating pillars reached a harmonic crescendo. Pressure built in Jonas's ears, then released all at once as the luminescent liquid began draining from the chamber. As the level dropped, their newly modified armor locked into its final configuration. His plating permanently darkened to match Veilthari hues. Xia's underlayer now bearing silver tracery mirroring his engineering work. By the time the pool emptied completely, the stone tablet in Jonas's hands had hardened into permanence. He handed it to Ke automatically, expecting her to place it among the others lining the shrine's walls. She didn't. Instead, she carried it to the chamber's central pedestal, an unoccupied space normally reserved for breakthroughs of particular significance. When the tablet clicked into place, the shrine's acoustics shifted again, producing a tone Jonas felt in his teeth. "That doesn't belong there," he protested, recognizing the pedestal's importance. Xia's answering smile showed teeth. "Neither did you on this station." She touched his hybrid plating where Veilthari patterns now glowed silver blue. Yet here we stand. The shrine's vibrations settled into a steady hum. Background noise now rather than ceremony. Jonas looked down at himself, at Kay, at their intertwined designs now enshrined literally and metaphorically. He'd come to fix breaches. She'd come to repay a debt. They were leaving with neither. Some obligations, it seemed, transcended repayment. Some connections rendered balance sheets irrelevant. Outside, the intergalactic war still raged. But in the shrine's aftermath, with their armor forever altered and a shared truth now carved in stone, the path ahead felt oddly clear. Kay lifted the tablet once more. Tracing their merged, Jonas walked the perimeter trail with Ka at dawn, their footsteps quiet on the damp soil. His hybrid armor had darkened fully to Veilthari hues overnight, though finger-width silver tracery still marked his repairs. Ka's underlayer now bore matching patterns, Jonas's engineering signature etched permanently into her ancestral protections. Birds called from the trees, sounds the station had lacked. The war still hummed beyond these woods, ships clashing in orbit. Distant weapon echoes, yet here sweat-beaded unarmored skin, shared silence speaking louder than strategy briefings. They reached the camp's edge as sunlight struck the shrine pool behind them. Two sets of armor gleamed. "One purpose. The galaxy kept spinning, they kept walking." Here's the 487-word response for Section 4. Jonas didn't understand yet what he'd set in motion. Gressler wasn't gratitude or repayment. It was transformation written in 3 ancient forms. The Veilthari recognized only 3 valid debts between warriors, each more binding than the last. Loyalty meant service unto death. The warrior would fight at your side, bleed in your place, but never reveal their inner self. Knowledge meant sharing clan secrets, veiled truths about armor cultivation, star maps to hidden homeworlds. That debt bound you to their lineage but not their body. Self was different. It meant surrendering autonomy for a year and a day, allowing another to witness you at your most vulnerable. For a Veilthari, this only occurred through armor removal. Their living battleplate was as intimate as exposed flesh. Few outsiders knew this ritual existed. Fewer still understood its weight. Jonas had unknowingly triggered the rarest option with his offhand joke. When he'd said "you," the armor's bioluminescence had flared in recognition of an ancient formula. To the Veilthari, Those syllables formed the opening phrase of Self-Greseler. His human inflection didn't matter. The armor remembered the shape of the words. Kea Drenval's fingers moved steadily across her vambrace seals while coalition officers shouted warnings. The closest medic reached for her arm, then froze when the warrior turned her head just enough to bear elongated canines. Her armor pulsed brighter where Jonas had repaired it, the bioluminescence synchronizing with her breathing in a way it hadn't before. The offered gift was rejected, she stated to the room. Protocol demanded escalation. By touching her armor without permission, then refusing the ceremonial offer, Jonas had, according to their codes, committed an act requiring ritual redress. None of the human staff understood why this mattered until Ka stood and began removing her gorget. A Veilthari warrior's gorget contained primary neural linkages, the thickest armor over the most vulnerable veins. Coalition xenobiologists had theorized for years about what lay beneath that plating. Now Jonas watched as Ka's hands moved with ritual precision, releasing catches no human had ever seen activated. The inner surface glowed blue-white where it separated from her skin, revealing channels pulsing with something thicker than blood. Officers scrambled to activate quarantine protocols. Someone triggered a containment field that bathed the bay in amber light. Ka ignored it all, placing the gorget beside her vambraces in exact alignment. The pieces formed a geometric pattern on the deck. 3 points, 3 sacrifices. Jonas realized too late this wasn't just about revealing what lay under armor. Each piece Ka removed represented a different surrender. The vambraces for autonomy, the gorget for protection. She reached next for her chest plate, the largest and most intricate section covering her torso. Its removal would leave only thin underlayers between her vital organs and open air. The station's alarms wailed in the background, drowned out by the thrum of Ka's bioluminescent channels as they adjusted to sudden exposure. Her pupils had dilated into vertical slits, fixing on Jonas with an intensity that made his breath catch. He understood now she wasn't just following ritual, she was testing him. "Wait," he said, stepping forward. His boot scuffed through a puddle of the blue fluid still leaking from her armor's edges. The moment his shadow crossed the geometric arrangement of removed plating, Ka's hands stilled. Every Veilthari in the room, including 2 medics who'd revealed themselves by stepping forward, went rigid. Jonas didn't know their customs, but he recognized the silence of a threshold being crossed. His next words would rewrite things in ways neither species could easily undo. Ka exhaled through her nose, the sound carrying over the alarms. Her remaining armor flickered in response, casting shifting patterns across the containment field's amber glow. She waited, not for his understanding but for his choice. The station's medical bay hummed with containment fields, isolating Ka Drenval's removed armor on a sterile workbench. Jonas leaned closer, observing what human weapons scientists had spent years trying to reverse engineer. Up close, the Veilthari battleplate wasn't just covered in bioluminescent veins, it was made of them. The channels pulsed slowly at rest, their glow dimmer now that they'd been separated from their host. This wasn't armor in any human sense. No forged plates or smart polymers. The chest piece maintained warmth even off-body, its surface rising slightly with rhythms that approximated breath. Where Ka had peeled it away from her skin, the inner surface glistened with traces of that same blue fluid, still moving through capillary-like passages in slow, purposeful currents. Jonas touched one of the fractures he'd sealed earlier. His fingerprints shone where they'd made contact, a faint white phosphorescence against the blue. The glow intensified when he dragged a finger along the edge, a reaction no standard armor composite should exhibit. The light patterns coiled around his touch before slowly fading, like ink dispersing in water. Across the bay, Ka stood motionless under decontamination scans. She'd stopped removing armor the moment Jonas stepped forward, leaving the ritual incomplete. But what remained on the workbench told its own story. The pieces held imprints of everything that had happened since the bombardment, microscopic recordings in their bioluminescent pathways. Veilthari armor didn't just protect. It remembered. Each warrior's plate grew with them from adolescence, cultivated in sacred pools on their homeworld. The first layer bonded during a Veilthari's coming-of-age ceremony, merging with their nervous system over months of adaptation. By maturity, the armor reacted faster than conscious thought, hardening before impacts, sealing wounds autonomously. Jonas had seen the aftermath on battlefields, Veilthari corpses with armor still trying to repair fatal injuries hours after death. But the truly alien function lay in those glowing channels. They weren't just circulatory systems for nutrients and oxygen. They encoded experiences, every battle, every conversation, every touch. Coalition xenobiologists theorized the channels formed quantum-entangled networks, allowing ancestral memories to pass down armor lineages. A veteran's plate given to a young warrior carried all their accumulated knowledge in its bioluminescent patterns. Jonas examined the gorget where it lay separated from the rest. Its inner surface shimmered with intricate traceries, the patterns more concentrated around the throat area. When he angled it toward the light, the glow resolved into distinct clusters, information stored in some form of organic data lattice. His repair work stood out clearly, the sealant foam forming jagged interruptions in the flowing light. Then he noticed something else. Near the main fracture, the armor had preserved another imprint, a perfect recording of his voice print from when he'd joked about buying her a drink. The bioluminescent channels there pulsed in exact harmonic resonance with the speech centers in his translator earpiece. When he leaned in close, the armor responded by brightening along certain pathways, replaying the interaction in its own language of light. CA's footsteps approached from behind. She moved with that eerie Veilthari quietness, her remaining underlayer armor making almost no sound against the deck. Jonas didn't turn immediately, still tracing one of the glowing lines with his fingertip. "It's not just recording me," he said quietly. "It's learning." She came to stand beside him, her bare neck exposed where the gorget had been. Thin blue veins pulsed visibly under her skin, mirroring the patterns in the detached armor. "Grows with us," she confirmed, touching the vambrace on the table. "Learns with us." The implications unfolded in Jonas's mind with slow, unnerving clarity. Every interaction she'd ever had while wearing this armor had been encoded into its structure. Every battle strategy, every whispered conversation, every moment of intimacy, all preserved in pulsating blue channels. And now his own voice lived there too, his careless words given permanence in an alien medium. He pulled back from the workbench. "That joke I made earlier, recorded," CA confirmed. Her eyes tracked the glow patterns moving through the detached chest plate. Integrated. A chill ran down Jonas's spine. He suddenly understood why the Veilthari considered armor removal so sacred. It wasn't about exposing flesh, it was about showing someone the unedited record of your life. Every decision, every failure, every unguarded moment. Their armor was truth etched in living light. The chest plate's glow shifted as they watched, the patterns reforming into something new. Where Jonas had touched it most, at the repair points along the fractures, his influence showed clearly. The armor wasn't just preserving his actions, it was adapting to them, reshaping its pathways to account for human intervention. CA made a low sound in her throat. "Never been done." She reached out but didn't quite touch the altered sections. Outsider marks on battle memory. Jonas's mouth went dry. He was suddenly hyper-aware of his own breath, his pulse, all the biological noise a Veilthari armor would naturally record. That's why the ritual, he realized. When I said you and you started removing, you weren't offering yourself. You were offering access.